Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com. Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
I'm very angry.
I've heard a lot of people talking about gun control. You have to wave a magic wand and get rid of the establishment. This maniac is going to inspire the next maniac.
News, analysis, opinion.
But my focus is kind of the mental health crisis. Swamps not going to drain itself.
I'm just sick of the protesting in general, and that's why it's so very important to be prepared.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Just another nearly perfect day with high temperatures near the 70-degree mark, probably into the lower 70s. Nice dry air. We do have some high, thin clouds overhead, but they don't amount to anything. And certainly no precipitation from that. Overnight lows tonight in the 50s, and again tomorrow a high near 70 with a little bit of a breeze in the afternoon that will shift from south today to northwest tomorrow. And we're still going to be mild on Thursday, but it looks like we have a chance of a few showers on Friday morning. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Agree.
I think conservatives have it wrong.
Or disagree.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The conversation happens here.
I agree with you on Trump.
I'm shaking my head. I'm one of your liberal Democratic listeners, and I don't get why any of this even matters.
Because your voice matters.
Everybody told him he couldn't do it, and then he did do it.
That's what you got to do. You got to play hardball.
I want to hear what people think and be able to talk about it.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. News, analysis, opinion.
I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
The UN has such tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close.
There is not a thing that comes to mind. I didn't fully appreciate how much people wanted to know there was a difference.
We have had a revival.
Thank you very much.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one
For conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The time to rise has been engaged with better best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song, the finest hour, the finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Colombo and Company here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn. On this Tuesday, election day across the country, major elections in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, California. We're going to talk about all of those things as we go through the afternoon. Also, the latest on the government shutdown. Some interesting news regarding the possible future of two prominent members of Congress on the Democratic side. One each on opposite ends of their political career. News and rumors today regarding Nancy Pelosi, and news and rumors today regarding AOC. We'll get into those stories as we go through the day as well. We are at the 3 o'clock hour going to be joined by our legal expert, Susie Moore from Red State, redstate.com, Red State Radio, and of course, Mike Ferguson in the morning every weekday here on News Talk STL. Susie will be with us in the 3 o'clock hour to unpack some of these things. Also, one of the things I definitely want to talk to her about is We're used to talking to Susie about judges going after Donald Trump and judges maybe, being a part of impeaching the president. Today we have a story about a judge that went after Donald Trump, possibly facing impeachment articles. Judge Boasberg, you remember that name, been at the center of some of the controversial lawsuits against Trump. He was a Republican congressman today, formally introduced articles of impeachment against U.S. District Judge James Boasberg. So that's one of the many things that we will talk about when we get Susie on the line in the 3 o'clock hour. And right now, starting the show with us and here for the entire 2 o'clock hour, when you've got a busy day, lots of stories happening. We're somehow in the month of November, which doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of things in this crazy world that don't make sense. And that is why we need the strong, comforting hand and hold and hugging of Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. And Crane, on election day even, brothers don't shake hands, brothers got to hug.
And as we hug, you've got to shake me a little, baby, because I need to come out of this funk that I am in.
Oh no.
I got to tell you, it's a challenging time. All hope is not lost by any stretch, but we're about to elect a communist in New York, the financial center of the world. And this is a result, a long time coming, by the way, because the left has trafficked in class envy, economic, basically violating 10th commandment of being envious and covetous of others and not glorifying those who have used their blessings to provide goods and services for others and make a profit. I think we have lost the last century's lessons because we know how this ends. And it's pretty sick. And the only thing, you got these people literally being asked about what they believe at these rallies or at these protests, and they shut down. They listen to others say, don't talk to him, don't talk to her. They're asking you questions and you're protesting. God forbid you answer a question about what you're protesting at a protest or media. It bothers me.
Yeah. And I think that you are spot on, and I think it's important to highlight that that what's happening in New York right now, and we'll see about some of these other elections throughout the day, and then obviously in the not just today, but in the coming months and next couple of years, how voters across the country cast those votes and the leadership that they install. But it's pretty amazing that after the mandate, that buzzword mandate that we heard so much and have used so much since the election now 1 year ago, when Donald Trump was elected president and the Republicans were given both the House and the Senate by voters across the country, that it seemed like that there was some momentum. And then we've had a year where there's been plenty of controversy and, certainly not far from perfect, but we saw some major progress when it comes to cleaning up the border. We have seen massive progress in one of the wars that Donald Trump inherited. And, we've seen more work put into the other war in Ukraine, in the last year than we ever saw Joe Biden trying to do when he was in office. So, you got a lot of these, we've got a return to common sense on a lot of law enforcement issues and a lot of social issues like boys playing girls sports. But today it looks like the biggest city in this country is going to elect the most progressive, communist, far left candidate I can ever remember running for a major office in this country. So it's kind of a, it's kind of a mixed message there. And I know New York is just New York, but it is massively important to the country. It's being the largest city. As you mentioned, we talked with Paul Kurtman about this yesterday. Paul was talking about the economic impact that New York has on the entire country because of its sheer size and volume. So,
by the way, that guy's brilliant. Just to tell you, know that he's a wow, what a resource.
Every regular guest on this show is very intentional, and he is, and you and others, you bring a lot to the table, and I certainly agree with that about Paul. And and so this is a national story, and so it's pretty amazing, Crane, to think that after that election 1 year ago, you would think that the momentum would be, the wind would be at the backs of a more conservative mindset. And yet here we go. We're about to, again, this guy's further left than Barack Obama. He's further left than Joe Biden. He's probably further left than AOC and Ilhan Omar and the like. I mean, further left than Bernie Sanders. How does that happen? How do you reconcile that those two things all seemingly happening at the same time? This mandate for conservative leadership at the same time as we're electing the most progressive left-wing leader in our country's history at a major office. I believe, well, maybe not in the history, but it's certainly in my lifetime. I can't remember anybody as wacky as Orhan Mandani.
No, and he hates Jews.
Yeah.
He supports terrorists. It's a sick ideology.
He hates
and
business
it's scary.
owners. He hates
business owners. He hates the police.
He hates rules. He hates law.
He hates law. He wants to do a failed experiment on free buses that Kansas City did and failed and canceled. This is,
what he hates the idea. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is important.
No, go, buddy.
He hates the idea of individual thought. He hates the idea of individualism and working hard to advance yourself and to provide a better life for yourself and your family. He hates people that have that mindset. He wants everybody to fall in line and get in line, and I'll hand out the paychecks. I'll hand out the food stamps. I'll hand out the groceries, and you guys just listen to what I say, and I'll provide for you. And if somebody thinks they have a better way, or they think that they can work hard to better themselves, then, they just need to shut their mouths and get in the back of the line. Like that's what he thinks. That's the belief that is on display in New York.
Absolutely. And in the ideas of Lenin, Stalin, and Mao, there is a track record, and it's bloody and sick. Now, as you just said, he doesn't respect the individual. The idea of being a conservative, and I believe one of the tenets of being an American is understanding that we're all made in God's image and respecting that, and that understanding that we are all created, that we all have gifts, and the idea of being equal under law and being treated that way, it's central to the American experiment. It's the idea that we don't want government to be God, because it makes a horrible, horrific God. It's a false God, and it's a really bad daddy. And he is saying, I'm going to solve problems with something that has never worked before and ended in death and destruction. P.S. At the epicenter of 9/11, the Twin Towers falling, we have him being a sympathizer to terrorists.
Yeah.
And anti-Semitic, hates Jews, wants to arrest Bibi Netanyahu. Okay?
Yeah.
This is sick.
It's sick.
have a major league problem in the United States. And by the way, the anti-Semitism is bleeding into the right, elements of the right. Hey, Tucker. Hey, Tucker. Yeah, you. I totally reject it. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. And white supremacy in the sense of Nick Fuentes. What a jackass. And how can we not expose these people and say, hey, guess what? That's not our dance. That's not our bag. And if you try to even mainstream it a little and mollify the impact of it a little, bye-bye, because we have no place for it.
I am, my mind continues to be boggled by the double standard that is so on display and so comfortable being spoken by so many people in this country when it comes to Palestine, Gaza, and Israel, and how even the people, like you said, even people who sometimes are on what I would call the right side of things and more sympathetic towards Israel, there's still a double standard in place. And then, then that's just on the surface. And then you start to go down the anti-Semitic, rabbit hole, which so many people have fallen into and have promoted and everything, with all the riots and so many things, the crazy things that we've seen. But like, even the people, listen, it's okay to be critical of Israel. It's okay to be on Israel's side and be critical of Israel. We do it all the time here.
Sure.
I'm on President Trump's side. I'm on America's side, but I'm also very critical of President Trump when I feel like I need to be. So it's okay to speak out when you think that somebody is not, is doing something that you don't agree with. But it's like the flip test just doesn't exist when it comes to Palestine and Israel, because there's just two totally different sets of rules. It's like, okay, it's okay to be critical of Israel, but you're not allowed to be critical in any way of Palestine or Gaza or the terrorists of Hamas. It's just, it's from day one of this war since October 7th. I continue to be surprised at the level so many people in this country have sunk to and how comfortable they are with espousing that racism and anti-Semitism on a public platform.
And knowing it's a lie, knowing it's propaganda that is factored in to terrorists. Terrorists like to cut off heads, put children in ovens, rape women to death in front of their husbands, and then behead their husbands in front of their wives. This is what we're talking about. It's really not a tough moral test. Okay, this one isn't tough.
They attack schools.
Schools, everything. Exactly. And we say, well, why? If you really want to ask about the Palestinian question, ask Jordan and Egypt. Okay, because that's technically their country, and that's what it was supposed to be. It was actually Jordan, but a digression nonetheless. The point is, we have a moral test right now in this country, and we must rise to it. And that means that wherever it's coming from, this diseased ideology, it must be confronted, not through censorship in the way of removing them from allowing them to voice their opinions, but to challenge those opinions and return those opinions into the dustbin of history. Lessons apparently we did not learn in the 20th century and are continuing to learn in the 21st century. Scary stuff.
Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com, the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. He is with me for the entire 2:00 hour here. I want to start digging into some of the latest news and stories coming out of these various elections, specifically New York. Obviously, a lot going on there. Also, California with Prop 50, New Jersey and Virginia, also major elections today. I want to start digging in to some of the updates on those things across the board. Also, the latest on the government shutdown. If we can get to it, I want to get Crane's thoughts on Donald Trump's 60 Minutes interview that we partially unpacked yesterday. There's more fallout today from that interview. There's lots going on, and we will continue the conversation with Crane Durham next.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
place to talk. News Talk STL.
Our buddy Dave Sylvester from Gutter Pros was in the studio with me yesterday afternoon at about 3:25. If you missed that conversation, go back and check it out on the podcast. It's great to talk to Dave, especially this time of year, because we are entering into the next few months where if you have a problem with your gutters, or you have a problem with your siding or your fascia or your soffit or the other things that his team at Gutter Pros can take care of for you, this is the time of year where those issues can really be accelerated and can cause more damage and become more costly if you don't realize that they're there, or you are putting them off, like I did with my gutter problem when I inherited the house. Thank God I did finally call Dave and his team and get it taken care of before it became a larger problem down the road. But we're into November. The leaves are falling rapidly out of the trees. If you don't have the proper leaf protection on your gutters, that can be a problem. If you have damaged siding, holes in your siding or cracks in your siding, or your you have problems with your fascia or soffit, the gutters are, maybe separated from your home. Water and moisture can get in those holes and cracks in those areas. And, it won't be long before we have freezing temperatures. And then when that water freezes, it expands and creates damage. All of these things can be prevented by calling the team at Gutter Pros. They take care of all your gutter problems, including leaf protection and gutter repair and new gutter installation, and also all your siding needs, siding repair, siding installation. And like I said, fascia, soffit, they do it all at the Gutter Pros. Call them now and learn more about everything they can do for you and your home or your business by going to gutterpros.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that, because you can get all the information you need to understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Looking for insurance you can truly trust? Since 1986, Bauer Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses across Missouri and Illinois. Owner Cindy Blanton doesn't just offer one quote. She shops all the top carriers like Progressive, Travelers, Safeco, and more to find you the best rates. Whether it's your home, auto, toys, or business, we've got you covered. Visit us at Mid-Rivers Mall in St. Peters or call 636-812-2001. Bauer Insurance Agency, the company that protects, the name you can trust.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his handpicked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Parents want more choices rather than fewer when it comes to their children's education. And now some Missouri parents will have one more option to get their children the best education available. Low-income students and those with disabilities in Missouri's largest communities can now apply for an Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA. With an ESA, the money the state would normally pay to your child's public school goes into an account that you control. You can use the funds for private school tuition, online learning programs, a private tutor, or other approved uses. You can tailor your child's education. For too long, Missouri officials have operated on the mistaken notion that parents only need one choice. They're assigned public school based on their address. ESAs put parents in charge. It's school choice at its best, with money following the students to the place that best fits their needs. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. This Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's election day for a handful of cities like Ladue, Creve Coeur, and Festus. We'll get David Stokes' final thoughts about the ballot at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company. I'm Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Ashlyn, and on the line with us is Craig Durham from nothingbutruth.com and the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. Crane, I think that if I remember correctly, I've been asking you and other guests for the last couple of weeks, what you think is going to happen in this New York mayoral election. I still believe, as it stands, that Zoran Mondani will be elected by the people of New York today. Are you still of that mindset? We could revisit our percentage game.
Yeah, I think there is, what was it, 94% last time? I think I'll go to 97%, but it's going to be much closer than people thought.
That'll be interesting. And I said this yesterday, not only am I really interested in the New York election because of its mass importance, but also if Zoran Mondani doesn't win, or if it is razor thin, then I think that this is also that would also be a massive indictment on the polling institution.
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
I've been checking every day. And I usually, I'm not going to do the whole setup again about Real Clear Politics and how they take all the most recent and put it all together. But, I've been keeping a very close eye on these polls.
For decades, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to let people know, he's Tony, research-wise, is all over polls throughout the decades, okay? Well, so this is something he is keyed in on, and it's pretty awesome. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, it's true that it's like what I said yesterday. Like I've always been a news geek my entire life, but like the center of that geekdom is elections. So polling and elections and election coverage is like, that's the zenith of my news nerddom. So even when it's when it's a mayoral election in New York, I still get pretty geeked out about it and keep as close an eye on some of the things that other people not everybody's looking at. Some of the other stats or interviews, polls, what the people on the streets and, local people are saying about various elections or whatever. And since day one of this election season in New York, which has been, in full swing for over a year, every poll from every polling institution over whatever various methodologies, demographics, they have all shown consistently throughout that Zoran Mondani has a very comfortable lead. And there's been a couple of recently, there's been a couple of outliers that have shown, Cuomo closer. But even in those, I mean, he's not like no poll has him within, like just a few points. He's lucky in any poll. A good poll would be, in the single digits, not down by 10%. And I think there's one poll that was done recently that it was 5 points. But literally every other poll, even the ones that have been taken in the last week, all show Mondani, plus 14, plus 15, plus 16, very consistently that big lead. So if that ends up not being the case, and all of these major polling institutions have consistently and over again been reporting the same numbers, if those numbers aren't close to being true, then I don't know that we could really even trust any polls. And the polling is already, the credibility of polls has already dramatically slipped, rightfully so, in the last couple of years. And if Cuomo wins, especially if it's something crazy like Cuomo wins like comfortably, and just shows that all of these polls have been totally wrong, I don't know how we trust any polls anymore going forward. I think that there's the integrity of polling is one of the other major stories that I'm watching, as well as obviously all of the important impact that this race will have on New York and then the country at large.
And it's a great thing to do what you're doing. It's a very important thing because this shapes the narrative and it shapes the enthusiasm. If they're undercounting the other side, the opposition, and wow, it's between Cuomo now and this guy.
Oh.
So, but the point is, it's the way they shape elections. It's the way they shape a narrative. And if you go out and think, oh, there's no chance, well, then you're probably going to depress voter turnout.
Yes.
And that there's a strategy to this.
Yes.
And by the way, the mainstream media is still alive. The leftists are still alive in the sense of a market and what they try to do. Because you mentioned the shutdown and the idea of the shutdown. Norah O'Donnell really tried to advance the Democrats' cause.
No.
On 60, was that 60 Minutes?
Yes.
That
Yes.
interview. Yes.
That was on
So,
60 Minutes 2 days ago. Yeah, on Sunday.
Yeah. And I was just blown away. I had to yell at the television. I didn't have to yell, but Harrison, our dog, just looked at me and it was like, hey, Dad, what's up,
You
buddy?
all right?
You all right? You're going Fred G. Sanford on me. No, it's coming,
Well, right. You know what? I want to get
was-
I want to get into some of that 60 Minutes interview, but I want to finish up a couple points about New York, because if you agree, if you're still believing that Zoran Mondani is going to win, I am definitely believing that is what is going to happen. If Cuomo does pull off the upset, am I supposed to be happy? Because I'm not gonna be like, is that because here, listen to this. The Rudy Giuliani's staff and aides and his team from when he was mayor of New York have all come out sort of as a united front, like the Giuliani administration, and have thrown themselves behind Andrew Cuomo and endorsed Cuomo for mayor over the Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa. Joe Lhota, Giuliani's former deputy mayor and the GOP's 2013 mayoral candidate, confirmed to the New York Post that he is firmly in Cuomo's camp. He's not the only one. Anthony Carbonetti, Giuliani just putting a lot of those Italians around him. I love it. Carbonetti is Giuliani's former chief of staff and senior advisor of his 2008 presidential campaign, echoed Lhota's statement, giving Sliwa, being nice to Sliwa and praising him as a great New Yorker, but this Carbonetti also endorsing Cuomo, So, along with several other people that used to work for Rudy Giuliani when he was the Republican mayor of New York. So I don't get it. All these conservatives that are now endorsing Cuomo. I understand that the argument is the lesser of two evils, but we're talking about, do you want to drown to death or burn to death? Like, what's is there horrible options. There's no good, there's no good solution out of those two. So I don't know. I think that I don't get the Republicans. I don't get the Republicans rallying behind Andrew Cuomo here in the 11th hour.
On a general conservative Republican versus a liberal, quote unquote liberal Democrat. It is always the choice that people say about the Democrats. Oh, they're a little off on these things, but I appreciate this part, whatever. But their policies are poison. Okay. Mondani is the, 100% poison.
Yeah,
okay?
he's worse. He's worse.
Yeah, he's
I
worse.
agree.
He's worse. But 70% poison is still bad.
Yeah, Cuomo is still a disaster. Like he's still a corrupt, bad person. Like that has already ruined lives and businesses in New York.
Dare I say fascist? If you wanted to apply fascist, would you do it to Cuomo, or would you? My point is, you're exactly right. It's a horrible choice, but it's a choice nonetheless, and it's the only. These are the options. I think we all need to do a better job of fielding candidates, and even in the places that we look right off as lost.
It's going to be either way. It's going to be a massive lesson in civics and for voters around the country, and hopefully a true introduction. No longer will the Bernie Sanders of the world, the squad members, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Cory Bush, folks like that, be able to pretend like their socialist, communist agenda is something it's not, because we will have a real world United States example of
we'll have the receipts.
Is what it looks like. And that's the only silver lining that I can comfort myself with at night so I can go to sleep, is that at least this will be a undeniable finger point to end every argument. When I used to play high school football, we were really good, and we often won our games by a large margin. And when a game gets, when a blowout is happening in sports, especially a contact sport like football, tempers can flare. And our coach always said to, never take the bait. If somebody's pushing you after the play or trying to instigate you after the play, just point at the scoreboard. You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. You don't have to prove your point, because you're winning. You're on the right side of this. And all you have to do is point at the scoreboard. I think that Mondani's mayorship, his administration, will be that finger. Like anytime somebody starts arguing about, anytime somebody wants to get into a big fight about the benefits of socialism and, free food and immigration and everything else, just, you don't even have to argue. You don't have to be suckered into, or stoop to their level in that argument. Just point at New York, because New York is going to go down in flames. And that will be the one, I think, silver lining lesson out of all this.
That's a great way to put it. The receipts are going to be right there, instant. It's like debating a Cuban who's lived under communism. That, hey, we can do this. Well, we're all Cuban now, right? In the sense of being under a communist thing, the New York City, doing that and understanding it. And another part of this is these left-wing nut bars who are advancing this crap on universities and even high schools, that taking history out of context and teaching victimology 101 every year to everybody. It really shows you, as Generation Xers, I sit back and go, yeah, communism's not bad. It is bad, but it's evil.
Mm-hmm.
And evil thrives in these places where you try this stuff and the most vulnerable suffer. Yet they are the ones supposedly being advocated for under these systems.
It's destructive, and it's life ruining, especially for the most vulnerable. You're exactly right. And that's going to be a tough thing to watch, but it could be the lesson that just needs to be learned. Thank God I don't live in New York, is all I can say, because I don't want to be the one suffering for the rest of the world and the rest of the country to open their eyes and learn that lesson. Got another segment with Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com before we talk to Susie Moore from Red State and the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Crane, you mentioned the Donald Trump 60 Minutes interview over the weekend. I talked a little bit about it yesterday. More fallout and reaction has continued into today. And I've got the latest there, and I want to get your thoughts on that as well. So we will continue the conversation with Crane Durham next here on Colombo and Company.
I saw a shimmering light.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell. And I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven and this could be hell.
Talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
1019 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL.
As you know, Vincent's is not just my favorite jeweler. Vincent's is my only jeweler. And I was in recently looking at lab-grown diamonds. These are not glass. They are actual diamonds, but they cost a fraction of a natural diamond. You can check them out at Vincent's.com, or better yet, see these lab-grown diamonds in person. You're going to be amazed at the beauty and the price. Vincent's Jewelers, Vincent'sJewelers.com.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
You're a real tough cookie with a long history of breaking little hearts like
That's a good theme song for Crane Durham. Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Talking to Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. .com. And Crane, you mentioned the Norah O'Donnell, President Trump's 60 Minutes interview that happened over the weekend. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. It was exactly what I think everybody expected it to be. There was a lot of sanctimony from CBS and 60 Minutes. And, there was a lot of punching back and, everything's perfect and I'm the greatest, from Donald Trump. I mean, literally exactly what you would expect. As usual, though, whether or not you love Donald Trump's rhetoric or you kind of roll your eyes when everything's perfect and he's the best and everything's the best and all of that. I think it's very hard to argue that when you watch it, that the president comes off much more likable than Norah O'Donnell or the people at CBS that are so clearly, have an agenda and trying to attack the president. Like, you don't have to agree with everything he says, but I don't know how you watch that and you don't get like a gross feeling from the interviewer, which we see, that's not a CBS or a 60 Minutes thing. That's a media thing that and
it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. And it's disgusting. And it's why the left, you wonder how bad ideas gain currency, because we have a press corps dedicated to those promulgation of those bad ideas and lying about the good ideas or misrepresenting the good ideas.
So today there was another vote. It happens so often now that it's not even news anymore, but there was another vote today about the government shutdown. And once again, because of the Democrats, the attempt to open the government has failed and the government remains closed. I think today's day 35, if I'm not mistaken, of the government shutdown. That was one of the first things that Norah O'Donnell from 60 Minutes brought up and attacked the president about. And, just the context of the question of, not what are your thoughts on the government shutdown or what can be done to get the government open back up. The question was more like, when are you going to take action and reopen the government? You know what I mean? Like, it's just not even, it's very intentional. And it's just a dishonest, when the questions are asked that way, at the very beginning, it sets the tone that this is not going to be a reasonable interview. But that was one of my, that was definitely one of the things that I noticed. What were your takeaways from the interview?
So I saw that part and then I looked up online to find it. And that part of playing to Trump's ego regarding, hey, he can fix this. You've done it before. But she brought up the Democrats' talking points. And I don't think in that interview, and I could be wrong about this because I've only seen the highlights. But as I understand it, she didn't bring up the 13 times the CR was passed a clean CR. She didn't bring up the fact that they could have voted for those when they had the extension of those subsidies. She didn't bring up the fact that the Democrats are at fault here, and even John Fetterman recognizes that, and others do. She advanced the cause for Democrats, and it really ticked me off because now you literally another cut and dry case here. Clean CR, do this. And then you have unions actually caving, which is great in the sense of understanding the pain this is causing. And Democrats, I would say, overconfidence. And why wouldn't you be overconfident if you didn't have the mainstream media in your pocket? So that's what frustrates. And I appreciate some of those replies, as you said. Sometimes I think he gave some cover for the enemy to breathe life into those issues that they're raising about healthcare. Nevertheless, it shows you, hey, they did exactly what they are going to do and should have done, in the sense, if you wanted to keep the government open.
Yes.
And somehow they're going to find a way to put it on the Republicans. It's wrong. It's wrong.
It is. We only have a couple minutes left here, Crane, but talking about this reminded me of another big moment from the interview that I didn't get a chance to talk about. So real quick, a really interesting part of the interview, and I don't know if it was part of it that was on television. You know, there was like 23 minutes of it on television, but it was like 75 minutes long. The whole thing's on YouTube. But Donald Trump, they talked about the filibuster and eliminating the filibuster. And Donald Trump was full court press saying that Thune and the Senate Republicans that are in charge should get rid of the filibuster. And, you know, this is one of those issues. The party in power always wants to get rid of it. And the party not in power always, you know, relies on it. So Republicans and Democrats have both done it. They've both heartily endorsed getting rid of it when they're in power, and they've fought to keep it when they are not. I thought it was really interesting that the president really dug in deep and said they need to put the pressure on Senate Republicans to eliminate the filibuster. Listen, I'm guilty of being one of those people. When I think sometimes, hey, we ought to get rid of this so we can get this work done. But then at the same time, I remember, you know, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, and think, you know, maybe this is there for a reason. What are your thoughts on that? We got about a minute and a half left. Your thoughts?
Okay, two thoughts. One, I don't think we need to do it in the sense of supporters for these clean CR. Two, I want it there. It's a check. It's a check when we're out of power. And it's really important. And I recognize we're in guns a-blazing and everything else. I get that. And I love what President Trump's doing with immigration and so many other things. But this is not the path. This is not the right way to go for our republic.
Yeah, and you're not always going to be in the majority. And you have to remember, and Democrats and Republicans are both guilty of this. They have both blown up, you know, crossed lines, opened Pandora's box, you know, on issues in the past that come back to bite them in the future. Like, yeah, it could maybe benefit you in the short term, but there's going to be a day where there's going to be another Joe Biden in office, and you're going to wish that Republicans had, you know, some tools and checks, as you said, at their disposal to combat the majority. So I don't know. It's a tough issue, but something that the president was very, very firm about during that interview.
Yeah.
Really one of the most interesting parts. Yeah.
Speaking of firm, just to let you know that I released a video this morning. I think some of you all would like to check it out.
Yes.
It's some of what we've talked about, and I love you.
Yeah. Back at you, buddy. Check out Crane Durham at nothingbutruth.com, the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. Susie Moore next.
Hey, folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
St. Louis, it's here. The bigger than Black Friday at Renewal by Anderson. For a limited time, get the biggest dollars off savings of 2025. $330 off every window. $830 off every patio or entry door. Plus, you may have no payments and zero interest. Renewal by Anderson. Unprecedented winner of the prestigious J.D. Power Award for customers 6 years in a row. Renewal by Anderson, full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson, a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. $330 off every window, $830 off every patio or entry door. Schedule your consultation today at rbastl.com or call 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. Award-winning quality, bigger savings, smarter investment.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Town Hall, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Voters heading to the polls in America's first major election day since President Trump returned to the White House. And no contests are bigger than governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, the only two this year. Initial exit poll data showed tight races in New Jersey and Virginia, with New York City's Zohran Mamdani leading among young voters in the city's mayoral contest. Those polls, of course, reflect demographic splits, but do not predict the final margins. And another vote, another failure today in the Senate when it comes to reopening the government. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said there is a downside to drawing on those emergency funds to pay for SNAP benefits.
The recipients of these SNAP benefits need to understand it's going to take some time to receive this money because the Democrats have forced the administration into a very untenable position. We are digging into a contingency fund that is supposed to be for emergencies, catastrophes, for war.
Meanwhile, the ongoing shutdown sending some Head Start students back of the line.
Dozens of centers are missing out on federal grant payments that were due to arrive November 1st. Some have closed indefinitely, while others are staying afloat with emergency funding from local governments and school districts. The closures mean Head Start children who come from low-income households or are homeless or are in foster care are missing out on preschool. They are also missing out on the 2 meals a day that they receive at school.
That is Lisa Dwyer reporting. Former Vice President Dick Cheney has passed away.
The word has come in just early this morning of his passing yesterday. Mr. Cheney succumbed to complications of pneumonia, along with cardiac and vascular disease. He had led the armed forces as defense secretary during the Persian Gulf War under then President George H.W. Bush, before returning to public life as vice president under President George W. Bush. Dick Cheney dead at the age of 84.
That's correspondent George Williams. More from townhall.com.
At Audion Hearing, our mission is simple: to make better hearing affordable for everyone. We're proud to offer high-quality, rechargeable hearing aids starting at just $98. Clear, comfortable, and ready to use right out of the box. And here's a study worth hearing. Johns Hopkins research shows that wearing hearing aids can reduce your risk of dementia by up to 61%. Join over 1 million happy customers and hear the difference today by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Not as chilly tonight, low down to 55 degrees, so a little milder in the morning and a mild afternoon. Sunny skies and a high of 69. A little breeze out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Turns cooler in the evening. Temperatures will drop into the 50s pretty quickly Wednesday evening, and it's a little cooler but closer to normal for Thursday. Still mostly sunny, a low of 42 in the morning Thursday and a high of 64. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Fox News commentary with Ben Domenech. Next.
Feel that chill in the air? Now's the perfect time to layer up. The outerwear shop is now open at Untuckit with sharp new jackets and vests made for this season and beyond. You'll find all the right layers to keep you warm and looking sharp, including cozy sweaters, sweatshirts, and more. But hurry, fall weather won't wait, and neither should you. So don't miss the outerwear shop, open now at untuckit.com in more than 80 stores worldwide. Untuckit, shirts designed to be worn, untucked.
Here's Ben Domenech.
The cohort that runs the Democratic Party has fundamentally changed in the last 15 years. You have seen the shift of middle and working class voters into the coalition of the right, the shift of the elites overwhelmingly into the left in terms of their priorities, whether it comes to liberal Republicans who cared about climate change or who were soft on trans issues and the like, going and becoming Democrats effectively, whether it's seeing the working class, Hispanic and Black members of society, middle class members as well, who have shifted over within the Trumpian coalition because of his appeal to their priorities. We are seeing these things echo in the form of the radicalism of the left, because those same elites are the ones who can tolerate such things. When they hear tax the rich, they understand how to navigate around that.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company. You didn't know I knew all those words, but now you know. I'm Tony Colombo. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. Another big thanks to Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com for joining us in that 2 o'clock hour. Now on the line with us is our legal expert from RedState.com, from Red State Radio, from the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Susie Moore, you are making us all look bad by doing so much and showing just how much a person can accomplish if they really put their minds to it, and I don't appreciate it. How are you, my friend?
Tired. Tired as I am.
I bet. And you know what? You know what's wild is that, you write articles, cover, all various news stories and legal issues. And you can write as many articles as you want at Red State. You have the weekend show, Red State Radio. Now you're with Mike every morning for 3 hours every morning. And what's crazy is with all of that, and I feel the same way, there's still not enough time to talk about all the things happening. I mean, if that doesn't show you the crazy world that we live in and just the news cycle that's like a fire hose, that, I have 2 hours a day, and I have a weekend show, but that's not we have fun on that show, not politics, but all those hours, it's still not enough to cover everything.
It's not enough.
It's crazy.
It's not.
It's crazy.
It really isn't today. It's one of those things where I feel like I find myself constantly apologizing to people, like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you sooner. I'm sorry. It was worse. It's almost worse than when I was a lawyer. It's like, I'm trying. I'm dancing as fast as I can, but I can't keep up with it.
So let's try to get to some of these stories. I do want to touch base with you on a couple of the issues of the day outside of court cases and legal stories, but I want to start with a few of those here. But Judge Boasberg back in the news, but this time he's on the other end of things. That judge's name got very famous in, being somebody who was at odds with Donald Trump, during various lawsuits that found themselves in cases against the president that found themselves in Judge Boasberg's courtroom. But today, Representative Brandon Gill, U.S. Congressman from Texas, formally introduced impeachment articles against the judge, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, for his role in the, quote, Arctic frost probe. Republican allies of Donald Trump have been criticizing Boasberg after news broke that he was the judge who signed off on subpoenas and other measures in former special counsel Jack Smith's probe. The congressman, Brandon Gill, who filed these articles of impeachment, said, quote, Chief Judge Boasberg has compromised the impartiality of the judiciary and created a constitutional crisis. Man, there's been so many constitutional crises. If I had a nickel for every constitutional crisis that we've seen in the last year, I'd have a lot of nickels. Quote, he is shamelessly weaponizing his power against his political opponents, including Republican members of Congress who are faithfully serving the American people within their jurisdiction. He goes on, but you get the point here. Susie, what do you think of the tables being turned on one of these judges for once? And is there some valid legal standing that these impeachment articles could have moving forward?
Well, there might be. I think that it's helpful from the perspective of actually having there be some accountability, that this isn't so much about a specific ruling of a judge as it is about actions taken that go to, and it isn't just about his ruling in opposition to the Trump administration. In fact, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Trump administration per se. It's actually about, focus that was centered on Congress.
Yeah.
So we've got the other branch, the third branch is speaking up, if you will. And this is the branch that actually has legitimate say over the scope and authority of the judiciary. So I think that I would not expect that this is going to go very far. I'm not even 100% sure it will pass the House if they're ever back in session. And if it's brought to the floor. But I do think it's to drive home a point. And this was made last week when the senators had a press conference in the afternoon after more of these revelations kind of came to light about the scope of these subpoenas and the phone records and that sort of thing. And, Ted Cruz was reading from the documentation that was turned over to him about the records of his that were sought.
Yeah, yeah.
And part of what was signed, the order signed by Boasberg, was, I'm sure it's boilerplate language, but nonetheless, when you're talking about it referring to a sitting senator, it really kind of drives the point home. Boilerplate language was, basically the company that this subpoena was directed to was ordered not to disclose to their subscriber, in this case Cruz, that they were turning over the information or asked for the information because documents and evidence will be destroyed. Not could be, maybe, not even speculation. It was will be. And I think that really,
it's not a good. That doesn't instill a lot of confidence in the American people, and it doesn't come off as I don't know, on the up and up when you hear language like that.
Yeah, and I mean, Boasberg has already been in the crosshairs. I mean, first of all, I think he made some rulings with regard to some of the J6 cases that people have rightly questioned. He, was in part of the FISA court, and then, his rulings with regard to the Tren de Aragua Alien Enemies Act removals early on in the administration's term, where it seemed kind of like he was going out of his way to kind of get into it with the administration over whose authority was which. Again, I don't know that it's going to go very far, but I do think it's driving home an important point, and that is to the so-called imperial judiciary. Hey, you know what? You do have to answer to people. You do have to answer to Congress, even though you're not elected, even though you've got life tenure. There are repercussions when you go way outside your lane.
And, I am normally of the mindset to not lower yourself to the level of your opponent if they are, behaving improperly, or, like if you get down in the mud, you're just as bad as they are. That's my general, my general stance on things. However, I also understand, especially when it's become as egregious as we have seen over the last few years. I think that, and kind of to the point that you were making about whether this goes anywhere or not, it's somebody punching back and saying, look, you're going to file all of these motions and lawsuits and everything, at the drop of a hat, at every chance you get, whether or not you even have the facts or any real evidence on your side. People are still. So you know what? This is a little taste of your own medicine. And I think that there are conservative voters across the country that are appreciative of fighting back. Like, let's not always dip down to their level, but sometimes, to even the playing field, you have to play by the same set of rules. So I think that maybe some of that is happening here with what we're seeing. Would you agree with that?
I do. I mean, I think that describes where I land too. I mean, I'm a lover, not a fighter. My default setting,
Yeah.
believe it or not, as argumentative as I can be. But at the same time, I do tend to say, like, take the high road, play by the book, play by the rules. But I think that there is something to be said for punching back, to, drive the point home, like, you're not getting away with this. This is going to end. And I think for too long, the Republican Party in particular has been willing to kind of take their lumps because they want to be seen as the good guys. Like, that's ever going to change in the eyes of the press. And I understand that impulse, but I also think that there is some value in, using their authority appropriately, properly, legally to punch back.
And how can you win if you're playing by a different set of rules?
Right.
if you're not playing by the same set of rules that the other side is, then now you start to, there's definitely a lot of positives, and it's always better to take the high road and be the bigger person. But at some point, you've got to, for the good of the country and to properly represent the people that voted for you. Sometimes you gotta fight by the same, use the same rules that they are, or otherwise, you're just always going to lose. So I don't know. I think
here's the analogy I want to go with, because we use this all the time. Charlie Brown in the football, Lucy in the football. Republicans are perennially Charlie Brown running up to the football with Lucy picking it up and him falling flat on his back. So envision this, guys. Envision that Charlie runs up, Lucy picks up the football, and Charlie turns around and picks Lucy up and goes and dumps her in the pond. Okay, I think we're at that point.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I think you're exactly right. Switching to another legal debate that is red hot right now. I am seeing on both sides of the argument, the tariff debate is heating up. After the ruling that we talked about last week, that paused Trump's tariff plans, but it is not the final say. And just because it's heating up in the media doesn't mean necessarily that we're getting any closer to answers in the court. Where are we on the tariff debate and the court case, and when will we ever get, when will we start to get some answers from the court on what will happen? This is a big part of the Trump interview on 60 Minutes on Sunday. He talked about, if his ability to leverage tariffs and negotiations with other countries around the world is taken away from him. He said that will be devastating for his administration and for the country, in his words. So this is a big issue, but are we going to get any guidance or finality on that anytime soon?
Yeah, the case is being argued before the Supreme Court tomorrow. So that's why you're seeing a lot of talk about it, because not only did the Senate vote they held a couple different votes over the past week or week and a half where they basically said, no, we don't agree with the use of this act to impose these tariffs. So they've let their thoughts on it be known. That doesn't have any binding effect right now on what the president has done or not done, because it has to be voted on by the House too, and that won't happen until next year. But in the meantime, the cases, the ones that have gone up several levels in the courts, are now before the Supreme Court. They're hearing oral argument on that tomorrow. And realistically, when will they issue an opinion on it? It could be any time from, next month till, February or March. We just don't know. There's no set time in which they'll issue an opinion on a particular case, but they are hearing the argument on it tomorrow.
Is there a consensus among the legal experts that are following this case on a guess on how it could go, or is it 50-50?
I think it's 50-50. I've not seen a consensus on it. Now, I've not been delving that far into it just because there's, as you rightly pointed out at the beginning of our segment here, there's so much going on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to keep up with what I can. I am going to try and listen in on the argument tomorrow just to kind of get a feel for it. And but even then, you never know for sure how things are going to go. So we won't know until we know, but I haven't seen anything definitive from legal experts who I think have a pretty good beat on things and aren't just viewing things through a partisan lens. I haven't seen consensus.
Yeah. Talking to Susie Moore from Mike Ferguson in the Morning, which you can hear every weekday starting at 5:30 a.m. right here on News Talk STL. And this was on my list of things to talk about, but it was not where I was going to go next. But since you just touched on, and we've talked a lot over the last several months about specifically how many cases you're trying to keep up with or, have on your, list of responsibilities to be, okay, I'm the one that's watching these. I mean, it's literally hundreds of cases against the president. And going back to that 60 Minutes interview on Sunday, another one of the big sort of moments and contentious moments of that interview between the president and Norah O'Donnell was when Nora listed names like James Comey and Letitia James and Bolton and tried to use these names as examples of Trump using the Justice Department and using the government, weaponizing the government for personal use. And I just thought and when I saw that, you were somebody I thought of immediately because I thought, I'm rolling my eyes at that question. But as someone who literally tracks and has been tracking the hundreds of different cases against Donald Trump, when somebody in the mainstream media brings up 2 or 3 names as an example of the the misuse and the massive overreach, that the president is exercising, do you roll your eyes at that? Just how, in your mind, was that a ridiculous question, knowing, all of the cases that, in the weaponization of government that we certainly saw on display during the Biden administration against Donald Trump?
So I think there's a couple different things to look at here. The hundreds and hundreds of cases that I'm tracking are against the Trump administration, various departments. He's named in some of them, but they're not against him personally. Right. They're against actions that his administration are taking, and they are civil suits. They don't involve criminal complaints.
Yeah. But if he wasn't somehow attached to them, a lot of them wouldn't exist. Right. I mean,
correct. Some of them would, but
right. But it's the Trump derangement syndrome that drives a lot of these cases.
That and just the idea that he's pushing through an agenda that is just untenable to some of the kind of establishment types. But if you look at the number of criminal cases and that were brought against him when he was not the president, and even the Letitia James fraud case, which was a civil case, but still had $454 million worth of implications to it. There was, everything and the kitchen sink and the refrigerator were thrown at Donald Trump personally in an effort to keep him from being reelected, to keep him off the ballot, and then to keep him from being reelected. So that's where I think you can look, and you can look at it one of two ways. And I think it's fair to ask, okay, are these prosecutions we're talking about with James Comey, with Letitia James, with John Bolton, are they retribution? Is this just this president's, personal vengeance mission? That's fair to ask. But you also have to say, okay, well, what are they predicated on?
It's fair to ask, but the context and the phrasing of the question was, very
well, I mean,
was leaning
60 minutes.
Yeah, right. No, I know, of course. Yeah, of course. But
I think that he made the very good point that look at how many times he was indicted, look at how many charges he was indicted on, and you can argue from here till kingdom come, but you find me the other person on this planet that would have or has been charged for entries in their business records that were legal services that I mean it the pretzel knots they twisted themselves in to try and get him get him convicted in that case are kind of outlandish.
Absolutely just a couple minutes left here with Susie Moore from Red State and Mike Ferguson in the morning. One more legal question for you, trial related question. You have a recent article from yesterday afternoon regarding the case against ICE and the National Guard in Oregon. Obviously, Oregon and Portland have been one of the, one of the focuses of this debate. California, Portland, Chicago, these have been like the hot button areas for this National Guard and ICE debate around the country. What's the latest on what's happening in Oregon?
So that one has lots of twists and turns, and I don't want to get so far into the weeds that everyone's, eyes are rolling back in their head. Basically, the Ninth Circuit is kind of looking over some of her earlier rulings because she issued these temporary restraining orders, but those are kind of beside the point at this point. And the administration actually moved yesterday to dismiss that appeal because in the meantime, she held a trial on the merits of the case last week. And she's getting ready to issue her ruling on that trial on the merits by the end of this week. And in the meantime, she's entered what they call a preliminary injunction, basically holding everything in place. The Guard is allowed to be federalized, even though she doesn't think they should be, but she recognizes that the court above her said that that was maybe okay, but they can't be deployed. Practical standpoint, they can't be deployed for now. And I don't know when this is all said and done and goes back all the way up through the courts, how that's going to shape up. I think we're going to get something out of the Supreme Court before we get a ruling out of the Ninth Circuit that means anything. And when I say that, we'll get a ruling out of the Supreme Court on the Illinois case, but that will then also have effects in California and Oregon.
And then I wanted to get your thoughts on, I'm going to talk about this in the next segment a little bit. And I wanted to get your quick thoughts on this Prop 50 in California. That's their redistricting ballot initiative, very similar to we're going to talk tomorrow with Rodney Boyd, our Missouri political insider. There's a massive push back by a group here in Missouri that is trying to overturn the congressional map that was passed by our legislative body earlier this year. This is the California version of that. It's on the ballot today. It's one of the big elections that I'll be watching closely tonight as we start to get some of these results in and out. So that is interesting enough. But what I really found interesting about this was, Gavin Newsom is the poster child. He's the face of Proposition 50 and pushing this in California. But the Democrats and the Democratic Party there in California rolled out a political ad these last couple days that they've been airing hot and heavy in California to try to get people there in California to vote for this, that feature AOC in California. And people are saying, like, this is a major sign of AOC's aspirations, larger aspirations that have been so heavily rumored about, especially in the last couple months, about the idea of, obviously of her primarying Chuck Schumer and trying to take his Senate seat and the possibilities of that happening. And I got to agree that the fact that she is starring in a massively important nationwide something that's being watched nationally, but a vote that's only happening in California, that she's found herself front and center of that situation, I think is a sign of those political aspirations. And this is also on the heels of yesterday's NBC News report that Nancy Pelosi is considering retiring, stepping away. So this could be a big moment of, AOC moving into the future leadership of the Democratic Party while the old guard steps out. Do you take stock in that idea of AOC and her, the idea of her running for New York Senate and being able to primary and knock off such a powerful person like Chuck Schumer? President Trump said she would do it. She would win that election. Do you think that that's the path that we're on and the Democratic Party is on, Susie?
I think we absolutely are on that path. I mean, I think that Chuck Schumer's his cachet, his power, has been ebbing away, and I think that his being front and center on the shutdown is his effort to reassert that power. But I don't think it's really working for him. I think his days are past, and I do think that we are going to see her challenge him and probably beat him if he decides to stay in. That said, I mean, the Prop 50, it's not really like what we did in Missouri. In
right. No,
California,
it's their version of the redistricting argument.
Yeah, but it's different. But here, I'm going to push back on that. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's important. The voters of California years ago said, we want an independent commission that does our redistricting. They voted that into place. This is an effort to do an end run around that by the California legislature that's going to give them the power to basically not rely on that district that the voters asked for. So it's a little different than what we're doing here. It's the same. The aim of it is to reduce Republican representation in California. And it makes sense to bring in somebody from Congress because that's what it has to do with its congressional redistricting, not the governor, not somebody who may run for president and Gavin Newsom. But it is interesting that they're going with AOC in California as opposed to, I don't know, one of their actual California Congress people.
Yeah. But isn't that a similar thing to what we have here in Missouri? Because it's in Missouri, it's the legislature that it's their purview, not the ballot, not the voters. And what this effort in Missouri, it's not obviously as far along as California because they're, it's on the ballot and they're voting on it today. But it's kind of similar in that there's a group trying to do a runaround of the other, like the traditional way of doing things in order to get their to meet the ends that they are.
Yeah, I guess where I see it being different is that it's a group doing it and around the actual voters that put into place that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So the will of the California
that's a
people
really good
is being
point.
subverted
Yes.
there. So, but it's
Yeah,
and justified means, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And it just shows you what a hot button issue that redistricting is around the country. And I'm telling you, we're going to talk more about it with Rodney Boyd tomorrow, but that issue is far from over here locally in Missouri. It's going to be something that we are talking about for quite some time, I believe, and one of the many issues that we'll continue to keep a very close eye on. Susie Moore from Get Out the List, redstate.com, Red State Radio, Mike Ferguson in the morning, every weekday here at News Talk STL, and every Tuesday right here on Colombo and Company. Thank you so much for all the time and for the insight, as always, on all these important issues, Susie. We'll talk to you very soon, my friend.
Thanks, Tony. Have a great night.
You bet. Back at you. Great stuff, as always, there from Susie Moore. All right. Like I said, I want to dig into that a little bit more. Prop 50, but also what's going on with AOC and this NBC News report about Nancy Pelosi considering retiring from politics. We will get you the latest on all of those things and one last look at some of the important elections that are happening today to get you ready for all of the fallout and reaction to those elections that we will be covering tomorrow. You're listening to Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
Grasser Electric is the team to call if you have any electrical needs at your home or your business. Grasser Electric is just an awesome company that is exactly the kind of company that I love to talk about and, trust with my own personal home. And then we've had Grasser in our home multiple times for various electrical issues. And you want that team, that local team that you can trust when you have something as big as an electrical problem at your home or business. Or maybe you have a project coming up. Maybe it's a large commercial project coming up that is going to require, somebody that you can trust to take care of the electric infrastructure and, helping you with that project. Grasser Electric is the team to call across the board. They can take care of all of your electrical needs. And they also offer free quotes for new work. And they have a 24-hour emergency services because, their commitment to the community. They don't want anybody ever being left in the dark in St. Louis. So they are there for you across the board for whatever electrical issues or projects that you may have. If you need Grasser Electric, contact them now and learn more by going to the website grasserelectric.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
South Carolina is one of 5 states that allow death by execution. It also has lethal injection and the electric chair, but it allows the inmate to make his choice. Soon, a 44-year-old will be strapped to a chair, 3 volunteers with rifles standing 15 feet away. On command, they will fire at a marker over his heart. Only 2 will have live bullets. 1 will fire a blank. Supposedly, the blank will have a recoil just as a live round. This is so they don't know for sure who actually killed him. This will be the first time in 15 years a firing squad will be used. We've had botched hangings, botched electrocutions, and botched lethal injections. Even Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor wrote, the firing squad is near instant death. There are 2 known cases where death was not instant. One in 1951. Decades later, word came out that the executioners hated the man and his crime so much that they purposely missed the kill zone. In another, the inmate smoking a cigar moved, and then he fell to the ground, shouting, "My God, they missed." He died 15 minutes later.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
In all of these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington.
Duck season opens November 1st in Missouri's North Zone, and deer rifle season starts November 15th. Hunters, are you ready? Mike Ferguson here for Whistle Pig Outdoors. They have everything you need. Stock up on premium ammo, upgrade your decoy spread, and stay dry with top-quality, field-tested waders. Whistle Pig also has big game clothing, deer stands, blinds, and scents. From waterfowl to whitetail, Whistle Pig Outdoors has you covered on North Main in Troy or at whistlepigoutdoors.com.
Cooking a pizza using coal? That's creating an amazing pizza. Only one place to get it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district at Chesterfield. Try it. You can thank me later. Also, don't forget that Lit Cigar Lounge is just a few doors away. Top of the line cigars and whiskeys. TVs in every direction. Watch your sports while enjoying your drink and smoke. LitSTL.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Today's story behind the story, a burglary ring inside a police department.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 119.94.1 News Talk STL. Great stuff from Susie Moore in that last segment, Crane Durham in the 2 o'clock hour. If you missed any of it or just want to make sure you never miss anything that happens on the show, subscribe to our podcast. We put this show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day, and we put it on basically every podcast platform. So wherever you get podcasts on that platform, just make sure you subscribe to Colombo and Company. All right, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office is attempting to sidestep rumors that she could soon be departing Congress. NBC News reported yesterday that Pelosi is expected to, quote, make an announcement about her political future after Election Day today. So this announcement could come as early as tomorrow, with unnamed sources, according to NBC News, anticipating the Democratic political giant is set to retire at the end of her term. But when reached for comment on the report by Fox News Digital and some other media organizations, a spokesperson for Pelosi made no mention of her stepping aside, nor about her long-term plans in general. Quote, Speaker Pelosi, knock it off. Speaker Pelosi is fully focused on her mission to win the Yes on 50 special election in California Tuesday. This statement was made yesterday. Continuing here, quote, she urges all Californians to join in that mission on the path to taking back the House for the Democrats. That is from Nancy Pelosi spokesperson Ian Krager yesterday. So I know, very interesting. NBC News, an unnamed California House Democrat was quoted in this article, in this report by NBC News yesterday, saying, quote, I think she's out. She's going to go out with Prop 50, overwhelmingly passing, and what a crowning achievement for her to do that. So if Prop 50 does win today, according to this Democrat and this report from NBC News, that will be Nancy Pelosi's final big success, that she can walk off into the sunset with another big win under her belt in her narrative, at least. Very interesting. And like we said with Susie, if we're seeing the end of the Nancy Pelosi era and the beginning of AOC running for Senate and rising, I mean, what a time to be alive. Politics. We're back tomorrow at 2. Keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, then the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show.
Hey, it's Susie Moore with a reminder that for 20 years, Harpo's Chesterfield has been the heart of West County's fun. With their award-winning patio, voted best in West County, and excellent sports bar atmosphere, Harpo's is your one-stop destination. The mouth-watering menu has made them famous throughout St. Louis. Plus, they've got great drink specials and the friendliest, most energetic staff around. Whether you're dining in or carrying out, Harpo's delivers fun, food, and drinks like no one else. Harpo's Chesterfield. Call 636-537-1970 or visit harposstl.com.
Hey, folks, Jamie Allman here for Newsteader's Fine Jewelry right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. WowDiamonds.com. It's Wow Diamonds for a reason. These are beautiful lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. They will blind you when you walk in and see them, but that's a good thing. Great engagement sets, wedding sets, all these beautiful God-created gems, sapphires, rubies, you name it, garnets, and also all the gold you need, and the famous Bulova watch wowdiamonds.com.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cut